Hello and welcome to another video. This is going to be a video on more hydro dipping of miniatures, crucially revisiting some miniatures that I've done before and pulling some old relics out of storage. I'm going to see how well you can hydro dip them with detail by masking off parts that you already spray paint, thereby limiting the amount of painting that you actually have to do to get a really good result. So we have the Primera stormspeeder that's been modified. I'm going to try and mask off all the bits that are already spray painted in black, all of the detail underneath, the vents and the guns, and then just go straight over this paint finish as it is with some grey digital camouflage. For the Primeras Outriders, previously done another video, I'm gonna get the spray paint out and spray paint the wheels black, spray paint the exhausts grey or silver or possibly both, and then mask those off and then hydro dip the rest of it. The base coat on these, one is gonna be grey and one or two is gonna be white. I'm gonna see the difference between the grey Arctic camo that I have and the digital green camo, as well as changing the base coat on one of them and seeing how the difference is. And then I went through some storage and found some old models I did as a child, and we have some firstborn Terminators and firstborn Jump Pack Marines. I'm going to see how they come out. They'll just be spray painted in one colour, but I will try to mask off any parts that I want to keep the same. With the Terminator, it's basically going to be starting from scratch again. The Jump Pack Marine, I'll probably mask off the chainsword and the plasma gun and then do the rest in one colour. I now have all of the models primed and masked off the pieces that I want masking off, typically most of them being painted black underneath. But for example with the Stormspeeder, it's just all being masked off. The Marines inside are being masked off, all underneath with the grav plates and the back are being masked off. So it should just get hydro dip on the actual, what would you say, body panels. The gun is going to be rotated backwards because it seems I can't take it off, but that should get the hydro film into the gaps correctly. The bikes have all had the wheels painted black underneath and the exhaust, and it's all been masked off as well as the guns, particularly the ones that have been painted white. The Marines, same for the guns, they've all been masked off after being painted black, so they'll just be nice black guns when they come out. Some of them are white and I believe one of them is grey. That's a good mix for the different types of hydrofilm that we're going to be putting on. I've mounted all of the pieces of these miniatures to some foam board with a glue gun. That's just so I can dip it easily, and the excess hydrofilm will then go onto the foam board, which will make it easy to pull off. With all that being said, it's time to start hydro dipping. I did quickly change my mind and decide to do green for the Stormspeeder. I just thought it'd look better with the grey base coat instead of grey base coat on the Arctic camo, when a lot of the Arctic camo is also grey. I have clipped down all this hydro dipping, so I should get through it pretty quickly. This one's to be the green Outrider with the grey base coat. Onto the Marines in the Arctic camo. I did find for some reason when the Arctic camouflage pattern hits the water, it does seem to curl up on the edges a bit more, so I just had to account for that with a bit more film. You can see here how it goes up the foam board that's glued onto the bottom nicely, so you don't have any excess stuck to the legs. And the Arctic Outrider bike. Now this is for the other half of the Terminator. Due to the backpacks, you don't have to do a double-sided dip on regular Marines, the film does go around nice enough. And what I did find with the stormspeeder, certain points around the gun and the underneath of the little wings didn't get hit by the hydrofilm, so I'm just doing each corner again. This was after washing it off and just masking it up again, so I could be very careful at only dipping the parts that needed to dip on it. And then we have all of the parts hydro dipped and washed off, as well as clear coated over the top. The stormspeeder is pretty much done. The green camo pattern has come up well with the grey or black background, also adding some variation to how dark it is across the model. Did manage to get those other bits with some extra bits of hydrofilm. There is some bits missing around the gun, but because I can't take the gun off, that'll do. And then onto the rest of the models. The Arctic camo came up pretty well. It did feel a little bit more difficult to hydro dip than the green camouflage for some reason, don't really know why. It came up nicely. On the Marines too. Same with the green Outrider, all came up alright. And then on the individual firstborn Marines, it came up pretty well too. The gun masked off, all worked well. Don't know how, with my eyesight troubles, I'm going to try dot the eyes, but come to that later on. In future, I want to hydro dip some of these Marines on the sprue, because I think it should be easier if it's on the sprue, and then you can just clip them off and it'll still fit together well. And crucially, they'll be easier to sand a bit of the hydro dip off, scrape it off, so then you can apply regular glue to it, because at the minute, these are most likely going to be glue gun back together or super glue back together. Only problem I find with super glue is if it's not a perfect contact point, then you end up with not very much glue actually holding it together. And the issue with the glue gun is it's not always a solid fitment when you do put them on, because you need the glue in the gap, which is quite thick. But nevertheless, we'll get them all put together. And now we have the models put together. I've tried to do a bit of shade paint onto the Terminator, and I've also used some silver to dry brush the rear end of the exhausts. However, what I did forget to remember, with the lack of the models, it becomes increasingly difficult to actually put paint over the top of them. So while I was dry brushing it on, it stuck to a degree, but not much. But I am happy with how the models look. And as for the Outriders, now there's just some terrain to put on them. If you were interested in the build video for that, that is a previous video. And I'll try and get some good photos of them now.